Good afternoon. Welcome to this Employment Committee. I am Councillor Anna Kelly, Chairman of this committee. My Vice Chairman is Councillor Gloria Johnson to my left. To my right is Joshua Mann, Democratic Officer. Welcome to all committee members, councillors, officers and members of the public. Please ensure that your mobile phone is switched off or tuned to a silent mode. I've not been notified of a fire alarm practice. Should the alarm sound, please move swiftly to the closest exit and make your way outside to the front of this building on the green, St Peter's Hill. Today, if you wish to ask a question or make a comment, please can you indicate by raising your hand. This meeting will be recorded and can be watched as a live stream or later via the SKDC webcast. The first item on our agenda today is apologies for absence. Do we have any, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I've received apologies from Councillor Rees-Baker.
Thank you very much. Any others? No. Could we vote to receive those apologies, please? Proposer, thank you. Councillor Bishnau Singh. Second, Councillor Phil Gadd. All those in favour of accepting those apologies. Thank you. That's unanimous. Forgot the word. Item 2, disclosure of interest. Are there any members here who have an interest to declare? You can declare this now, or if you become aware of it, you can declare it later in the meeting. There are no declarations. Item 3 on our agenda is to approve the minutes for the meetings held on the 4th of September. There are 2 minutes that we are looking at. There are private minutes and there are public minutes. Are there any comments from members? Could I have a proposer to accept those minutes, please? Proposed by Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Bishnau Singh. All those in favour of accepting the minutes for the 4th of September? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 4 today is the HR dashboard and people plan. Today we're having a presentation to update on the HR metrics for the half-year period from April 2024 to September 2024. Councillor Baxter, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce the HR dashboard. It tells a very positive story about our staff and the work that they do and how they feel and how they're getting on generally. The purpose of the report is to provide you with measurements of HR performance indicators and so on, and analysis of themes from our people strategy, which we've now been doing for a few years, and we are seeing iterative improvement, or we're seeing improvement with each iteration. It covers 6 areas, which are recruitment and workforce planning, engagement, reward and recognition, development, equality, diversity and inclusion, and well-being. These themes provide a holistic view of our workforce dynamics and the strategic steps we are taking to make the Council even better than it is. I want to thank Fran and all those associated with creating this report. I've said to some of the committee members this morning that what I look for in a presentation are lots of pictures and graphics and dynamic slides. Certainly got that this afternoon, as we will see from Fran. If you would like to take us forward through the presentation, I'd be delighted to see it. Thank you.
Thank you. So unfortunately I can't put it up on the screen today. We've just had a bit of an IT issue, but you'll find the HR dashboard in Appendix 1. So if you start by looking, it goes through the different themes of the HR strategy, starting with recruitment and workforce planning. So this is from page 13 of your packs. So we've got 570 staff at the moment, and you can see on the graphs the trend of starters and leavers over the past few years. So in terms of starters, we had 33 during the period, so this is from April to September this is measuring, and you can see on that graphic sort of peaks in April 2023, and that was because of a TUPE where we had more starters during that period, but generally it sort of maintains a level. And then the leavers increased in the first quarter of this year to 32. So we do we offer exit interviews to everybody that's leaving, and if you go to page 14, you can see on that graph the reasons for leaving. So not everybody accepts the exit interview, so sometimes we do have it down as resignation and don't have the further breakdown of what the reason for that resignation is. But the top, pretty much by far the top reason that people are giving for leaving when they're resigning is for career advancements, and it is majority where they've got a promotion in another council. And we do often find, obviously, our joiners are in similar situations as well, where they might have been at another local council and then got a promotion here. So that sort of does tend to happen quite a bit. And then also in workforce planning, so during the last 6 months, we've had 5 restructures within teams, so 5 different teams, and these are, as opposed to downsizing, these are looking at our team structures, what the optimal structure could be, how we realign work and realign roles, just to make sure that we're delivering the best service within those teams. And that's what's happened with those 5 restructures. So if I move on to the next slide, which is on reward and recognition, I think we've discussed a lot of these previously. So during the first half of the year, we had the awards evening in May, which we discussed at the last employment committee. Similarly, the pay award's been to a previous one, so I think you're aware of all these, but the reward and recognition strategy includes these areas like our Team SK Thank You, which we've been running, and extra leave and long service awards as well. And for the engagement section of the presentation, again, we presented the engagement results at the last survey. So we ran the survey, got the engagement results, which obviously gives us a steer of what to focus on and what's important to people and what might have scored higher and lower with different teams. And then over the past few weeks, we've been running a lot of sessions with teams to go through their individual team survey results, and just get the actions out of that. So the survey is a good indicator on what to focus on. But then the sessions are where we get the real information in terms of what people would like to see, and we're building that into an engagement plan. So this week we've run sessions with public protection and economic development, and we've got team action plans and then things that are council-wide actions that our employees would like to see. So the committee asked for an update on that action plan in January, so that's on the work plan to come back in January once we've concluded all of those individual team sessions. So if I move on to the equality, diversity and inclusion, so you've got the employee age range, which we've discussed before, is skewed towards older age brackets, and during this, probably a couple of months ago, we became an age-friendly employer, so that was part of our commitment to supporting people who might be in the higher age brackets to remain at work if they'd like to do so. We're also doing a lot of work with how we attract younger people to the council, working with schools, doing some things with the youth council, and we're looking at potential opportunities like degree apprenticeships that potentially people may be able to come here rather than going to university, and looking at our difficult to recruit areas and how we're planning that succession, but building in the equality, diversity and inclusion, our aims with that into some of these campaigns that we're looking at. So moving on to development, we've got 23 apprenticeships at the moment. That was an increase of 4 apprenticeships. So these range from senior leadership to joinery, we've got facilities management, IT, so a big range in terms of what people are studying and what qualifications that they're getting. We also launched a network during this financial year, which is getting all of the apprentices together to discuss their own development, any more support that they'd like from the council, etc. So we held our second one of those last month. We've got a line manager forum, which we launched to meet quarterly, and that's getting all our line managers together, anyone who's not a senior manager. And the next one of those we're planning for the new year, and that's going to focus on having quite an interactive session on developing their line management skills and some of the key challenges that they face as line managers. We're building that in so they work in small groups and deal with things like budget challenges or line management challenges, and that's a bit of competition as well. So we've got some work taking place to develop that session for as part of our programme for them. We completed appraisals, so these were in April, sort of May time, and we're 100% complete now on appraisals for everybody who is. So we don't do appraisals for some teams, they do check-ins if, for example, the waste teams, but for our more office roles, we do appraisals and everybody that is at work, not off sick, and has been available to do those, we're 100% complete, and then we continue to build in the outputs from those appraisals into our training and development plans to really build a development plan that is around individuals' ambitions as well as what the council needs. So the final section is on wellbeing, and it starts off looking at sick absence levels. So we are lower in terms of the days lost overall for the first half of the year for sick absence, but we did see an increase in sick absence in July and August compared to the previous year, and the breakdown of those, it's our short-term sick that's higher, and it's we saw a big increase in COVID during those months. And the next slide has the breakdown of the top reasons for those sick absences in terms of the days lost and the number of cases that we have. So the other area that's risen for us during the past few months is musculoskeletal. In the past it's always been, or for quite a while, it's been mental health related absences that has been our top reason for long-term sick. Musculoskeletal has risen. It's predominantly our more physical jobs, so it's waste and street scene who can't continue with their work whilst they might have different conditions and injuries. So we're working through supporting individuals with occupational health with those. And then we've also seen, as I say, the rise in COVID and general cold and flu. We've noted down the number of, so we do return to work for everybody that's been off sick, so they were at 99% for the first half of the year, and then there's been 44 calls to our employee assistant programme and 96 contacts made to our mental health first aiders. And on the wellbeing plan, we continue to have quite a packed agenda. We ask employees quite a lot about what they would like to see from a wellbeing perspective, and we put on sessions or initiatives or awareness campaigns based on what people are telling us. And recently that's included launching learning new skills sessions, and these are lunchtime sessions to get people together learning something different, but connecting with people from different departments. And then we've had lots in terms of things like football initiatives. We've got the waste team that have entered into a council football 11-a-side tournament. We've had self-defence classes and lots of other things that have been going on. And then just the second to last slide has got cases. So we've had 9 investigations during the first half of the year, and that breaks down what the outcomes to those investigations has been. We had a new policy, you might remember, a few months ago that was approved by the committee, and that's got a lot more guidance for managers, and we've been doing training with managers on the back of that in terms of improving the quality of our investigations. And then finally, the last slide looks at, you may well have seen about the new employment rights bill that we're expecting some more information on, and we have started doing some work on this in preparation for what's been sort of released so far and what we think will be coming. So we do have some 0-hour contracts. There will be things in the employment rights bill about 0-hour contracts. So we've started a piece of work to look at where these are being used and essentially whether we can guarantee hours with those. And then there are other areas in terms of people's rights for bringing unfair dismissal claims. There's flexible working rights as well, which we were already ahead of. So the last policy that we brought in is in line with, I think, what the government are going to announce with flexible working. And then similarly, we'll be looking at policies like maternity policy, and I think the stuff that's going to come in to effect in terms of employment law is around restructures and the protection for people during restructures, which we will obviously be keeping a look at on these changes to build all of these in. I think that's everything in the dashboard, so I'll hand back to the Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fran. It's always great to see those results, to see them presented so easily and clearly for all of us to take in. I'm sure that will have generated a few comments or questions. So are there councillors who want to ask anything? Councillor Knight, would you like to ask yours?
Thank you. Thanks, Fran. Just a few sort of quick fire questions just for clarity on a few things. The definition of long and short term, at what point does short term become long term? If you could just clarify that, please. Obviously, while it's great to see, how to say this, I was about to say it's good to see that mental health isn't the leading problem of long-term sickness, but obviously that doesn't mean that we want more musculoskeletal injuries. But in that sense, that's good, because I think we've talked about that quite a lot, so that's a real positive. COVID-19, can that just be merged with infections and things now? Because I think that it's the same. It's pretty much that now, isn't it? Disciplinaries, those figures seem really low to me. I think that's positive. That's how it looks anyway. It'd just be interesting to know if, at the moment, I appreciate, I think we're due an update in January, if any of those disciplinaries are related to the policies that we've passed on alcohol, drugs, speeding, or anything like that. And the final point, there's nothing in here at all about people being called away from work for childcare duties. So, for example, if my school rang me right now and said that my son has once again ran around the classroom and cracked his head open, can I go and pick him up? How is that type of thing recorded? Because it's not really a wellness issue, but at the same time it's still an absence. So I'd just be interested in that. That's it. Thank you.
Can I just intervene then and say, would you like to just give them to Fran one at a time, because I can't remember the first one on the list. I know she's younger than me, but let's be kind.
Well, the first one is the definition. When does short term become long term? That's the first one.
At 21 days.
Okay, second one is COVID-19. Is it still separated? Is that just a historical anomaly thing rather than any other reason?
Can I respond to that and say, when did COVID become general flu? Because I'm not a medical doctor, but people are still taking COVID tests and still proving positive. Are you suggesting that COVID is being muddled up with general flu and man flu?
Yes, and I am, but that wasn't the point I was making. But yeah, fine, I'm quite open to say that. The point is that ever since COVID testing hasn't been mandatory, since COVID's been treated the same way as any other cold and infection, it is just a cold or infection. I mean, if you wish to take a COVID test, that's entirely your look out, good luck to you. Not going to make any difference. It still counts as a flu and infection, and there's just a little bit of an issue that in the long term, if we're going to keep pulling it out, you know, at what point we don't measure for bird flu anymore, do we? So yeah, we should just merge it all together. I just don't see the point in it being separate, because I could have had COVID last week and I don't need to take a test. I didn't take a test, so who knows?
Okay, Chair, I think I understand the question. So I guess the question to Fran is, when people report that they have COVID, how do we know if it's COVID or not COVID? Do they need to take a test?
So this is where people are taking tests and they're telling us that it's COVID. So, so we still have that breakdown.
But we don't really care, do we? It's not matter. It's still a cold or flu infections. It doesn't make any material difference. Sorry, I got my mic on. Other thing was about disciplinaries and the policies that we passed on alcohol, speeding, drugs, if any of them are related to those.
They are. I won't go into the breakdown to give you whilst we're in public section are not on them, but yes, they are.
And the final one was childcare. If someone's called away from work to deal with a childcare emergency, bearing in mind we often know that these things are not emergencies, but it is surely something that does impact on this. And I suppose that a supplementary to that would be, what can we do to really support that? Because I imagine it must be very, very common that someone suddenly has to drop work in the middle of the day.
Yeah, so we've got a flexi-time policy, so normally it would be dealt with under that. So we are flexible in terms of people then needing to leave early. They can record that on their flexi-time spreadsheet, so that's conversations between them and their line manager.
Is that fine, Councillor Knight? Lovely, thank you. Councillor Bishnaz Singh, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just probably on the same side, just want a little bit of clarification. I don't quite understand. You said 21 days is long-term what called sickness. This is actually absence from work. People don't come in. So we got 1,595. Is it hours or days lost? Days lost. And do you know how many? I know you say on the next page it's about musculoskeletal 10 days. Is that 10 days lost generally per year, or by the same person, or is there any repeat?
So those top graphs, it's 10 cases that we've got. So the graphs at the bottom are the actual number of days lost. But that's 10 cases of long-term sick that's musculoskeletal. So 10 individuals.
And that is still ongoing?
So that's during the first half of the year. So this is all April to September. There was 10 cases where employees went off sick with musculoskeletal.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add into that, Councillor, it's 10 cases. If you're looking at 460 days, so that's why it's long term. It means that each one of those 10 cases was over the 21 days.
Right. Okay.
So they've had more than 21 days off with that issue, and there's been 10 cases in that period, which have equated to 490 days lost for us.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey, would you like to... Oh, apologies. Councillor Bailey, would you like to ask your questions?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a very quick one. Obviously, on the wellbeing kind of page, and I'm fully aware this is Employment Committee, but obviously councillors, I think the Monitor Officer sent an email around last week about how we kind of councillors can access kind of wellbeing supports, because being a councillor can at times be stressful. I'm just kind of, do we actually measure that in any way within this? And I know this is kind of for employment of staff, but is there a different committee or something that actually measures kind of wellness of counsellors from a perspective of mental health in particular, and if counsellors are actually accessing any of that help that's available?
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. So if a member has contacted an officer, or which it probably wouldn't be, would be the external support, then it would just class as a case, so we don't monitor it separately.
So that's not part of the 44 calls on here are specifically for members of staff, not counsellors?
No, it could be, that could include counsellors as well. We don't break it down, so we don't ask for it. It's 43 members and 1 member of staff.
Thank you. Could I just ask, in terms of our age-friendly and offering, what do we actually do as an age-friendly employer?
So a lot of it, so we work with the company that have these pledges around being age-friendly, and a lot of it is about how we incorporate, for example, flexibility into our policies. It's about things like having the menopause cafe, and having more conversations around flexible retirement, or just how we the flexible working policy, and having those conversations with people that perhaps they might want to reduce hours, or they might want to change how they're working, and that sort of thing. So there was quite a bit just on reviewing our policies, and incorporating guidance for managers on these sorts of conversations with people.
Lovely, so it's sort of creating opportunities for those conversations. Okay, lovely, thank you for that. Councillor Johnson and then Councillor Bishnaz Singh, please.
It's just an observation, really. On reasons for leaving, career advancement is the biggest one. And it's such a shame that we lose people that are moving on, and we can't sort of fit them in, but we can't make a job for somebody when there isn't one there. But it just seems a shame that we lose people for career advancement.
If I can come back in on that one, Chairman, yes, it is disappointing sometimes that we can't keep these members of staff, but like you said, we can't make jobs. But the good positive thing is it just shows what the quality of the training that we had and the quality of the staff that we have, because they're all going on to career advancement opportunities in local government or maybe externally. So we ought to be proud that we do train our staff well and they're of good quality, even though we don't want to lose some of them, that's right.
Thank you. Councillor Bishnaz Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is just a question that probably popped up. Okay, it's very good, these statistics that we are getting, as also being SKDC as a friendly employer or towards our employees, and that. Do we have any kind of support or any kind of help that we give for people that are on long-term what's called sick? You know?
That is in the literature. Did you want to answer that actually, Fran? Or it does say, I believe in the literature, that they are referred to the HR department and then they have an ongoing relationship with those people.
So what actually happens? What I mean, do we have professional bodies? To be looked after, to be given advice to how to better manage the condition?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's case-by-case support, and they're all very different. But we've got our occupational health service, which has got occupational health advisors and doctors that we can refer them to. They're specialists on advising about work situations. So we supply them with information about people's jobs, and we talk about things like reasonable adjustments, or how we can support them to be back at work, or how we can support them to stay at work. And then, depending what it is, we've got a lot of mental health support. We have counsellors that we use, particularly if we're trying to bridge the gap between, sometimes there's long waiting lists with the NHS getting counsellors, so we can bridge that gap. Similarly, we've done that with things like physio. So depending on, it all depends on the case and the situation, but HR and the line manager have regular conversations with people that are on long-term sick to put together a plan to support people.
Thank you. If everyone has finished on that item, it's not an item we need to vote on, it's just an item for noting. So if you'd like to move on to item 5 on our agenda, this is the Corporate Plan 24 to 27 regarding the key performance indicators. Now, I understand that Councillor Philip Knowles was going to bring this report to committee, but is the leader going to do that instead today? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to report this KPI report. All committees are receiving KPIs relating to their field of influence, and this one is about the actions which relate to the Employment Committee. We only have a single action, which is presented for quarter 2, 24-25. The action is rated green overall, so that's good news. There's only one action, so there are no actions which are amber and no actions which are red. At the end of the quarter 3 committee cycle, the reports will be uploaded to the performance monitoring page of the website in the new KPI Power BI dashboard, which I thoroughly recommend to all of you. There's some really funky data in there, and it's very accessible. You can drill down in certain areas into, so on housing or mist bins or whatever, you can find the real detail going back over a considerable amount of time in some cases. So there will be an all-member briefing on the dashboard at a later date, and the Council's wider efforts to enhance transparency. That'll either be later this year or early in the new year. So I hope that a single action which has a green light will be met with enthusiasm and brevity by the committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor Baxter. Does anyone wish to make any comment on this before we go on to the recommendation? Thank you. Karen Bradford.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could just add to that, is on page Appendix 1, it just does detail the engagement score that you gave as a stretch target of taking it from 70 to 72. Might not sound much, but that is taken from 6 different actions or engagement questions from the responses, and of course the engagement survey yet again, and to drive it through and get another 11% response, 11% increase in response rate, and taking us to 85% of the organisation. I just think it's great, and I just want to thank the team for doing such incredible work getting responses. Thank you.
Can I just say, I knew you could do it, that's why I stretched it. Thank you very much, Chief Executive. So, this was a recommendation that the committee reviews and scrutinises this performance against the corporate plan, and this report that you have here is just for noting, and no vote is required at this item. So we can now go on to item 6, which is the pay policy statement. It's a requirement of the Localism Act 2011 that the Council produces an annual pay policy statement. This summarises current policies and arrangements in place relating to pay. The pay policy statement is approved each year by Council as part of the budget setting and approval process. Can I now hand over to Councillor Baxter, who will be presenting this report? Thank you, Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. Another quite straightforward report, I hope. There have been no fundamental changes from the 24-25 statement. The key changes include the updating of the posts included under the definition of officers covered by the pay policy statement, and also changes in the national minimum wage and national living wage rates. The pay policy statement includes information relating to the Council's policy for the remuneration of its chief officers, its lowest paid employees, and the relationship between the two. Additionally, it provides details of chief officers' pay and sets out its policy for determining pay. The pay policy statement also includes the Council's policy on allowances, pension scheme contributions, termination payments, re-engagement of employees, and gender pay reporting. I used to get excited about paragraph 5, which talks about consultation. I used to ask, has the trade union been consulted? It says in here that the trade union, it says consultation has taken place with the trade union. I'd welcome a comment one way or the other from the trade union as to whether the consultation was adequate and whether there was anything that they wished to add to it. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Mr Harrison, would you like to speak on behalf of the trade unions at this point?
Yeah. Yes, we have been consulted on it, and generally, yes, we're happy with everything that's in there. We tend to mirror what the government offers anyway. There's nothing controversial, nothing's changed, you know, from previous things other than government recommendations. So, yeah, we're quite happy.
Did anyone else want to make a comment before I make a proposal? No, that's lovely. Okay. Can I propose that we accept this recommendation? That is the recommendation that the pay policy statement 2526 be submitted to the full council for approval. Could I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Bishnal Singh. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you, everyone, for that. Sorry, yes.
Could I just ask the Chief Executive or the Monitoring Officer, is it likely to go to the next full council? Are we within the deadline, or would it be the council after that?
The agenda for the council has already been published, so it will go to the following one in January. But we're still ahead of schedule, so no problem.
Thank you very much, everyone. And the next item on our agenda today is the work programme that we have for the end of 2024 and for the first quarter of 2025. Is that all right? Okay, if you could have a look at the work plan, perhaps you could give me your comments on it and perhaps further suggestions for work that you consider is necessary for this committee to participate in. Thank you. As I look through for our January items, we have the refreshed HR policies to look at, the SKDC engagement survey results, the teams breakdown that we've been promised by Fran on which teams are returning with particular answers to the questions within the questionnaire, and then the reasoning behind that, and if there is any negativity in that, what we can do to make it a more positive outcome next time. And as we always have annually, the gender pay gap will be looked at the January meeting. Is there anything else that anybody at this time thinks should be on that January meeting? Thank you. Councillor Knight.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier on. Are we due an update, this sort of 6-monthly update on drink driving and so again, muddling them all together on speeding and drinking and drugs? The policies that we passed, I think we should be about 6 months due, I would have thought.
Can I just ask, would that be a possibility for January, or would that need to move on? That's possible for January. Okay, so that would be an update on speeding and misuse of substances within the employment at this council. Lovely, thank you very much. And then, of course, sorry, Ashley.
Thank you. I don't know if it needs to be on the work plan or whether it needs to be in the form of a briefing paper, but does this committee want to hear anything about changes to, as a result of the autumn statement, such as the employers' NI contributions and so on? I don't know whether it would fall here or in the finance committee, or whether you'd be happy with a briefing paper.
I think everybody would appreciate a small briefing on that. And if anybody wants a mega detail on it, they can go to the Finance Committee to get it. But if we could have the edited highlights, that would be lovely.
In the meeting or offline?
In the meeting. In the meeting. Is that okay? Yes. Lovely, thank you. Councillor Knight.
Yeah, just on that, Richard Wiles is giving a briefing on how the budget, national budget, affects the council, I think immediately before next week's is it immediately before next week's finance meeting? So that, you know, all councillors, I think, are invited to that, and it would be quite useful, because I agree, it has direct implications here.
Perhaps people can consider what they would like to know if they want to bring any of these items to the January meeting. Are you looking for an opportunity to discuss the events in January, what it means to this committee, or what it means to staff in general, or just have it there and a short opportunity for discussion afterwards? The edited highlights, opportunity for questions, would that be enough? Would anybody require any more than that? Okay, lovely. So perhaps we can include in that meeting then the changes to what happens here at SK due to the budget and how it might affect us. So I've written that down to go on the list. And then, to make Karen smile, the Chief Executive's appraisal is our item on the list for March 2025. Is there anything else anyone else feels needs to go there? Can I just ask, please, Chief Executive, is that when we start to look at directors' targets again, or is that that will be way on?
No, it will be
September again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. It's the meeting afterwards, so I do have my appraisal done, and then I do the appraisals for my direct reports, and then the monitoring officer, the director of growth and culture, and the section 151 officer and the director of housing would then be presented in the May's meeting to this committee for endorsement. But I undertake those after I've had my appraisal, which is led by the leader of the council.
Thank you. So that's more likely to be on our summer meeting. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Are there any questions that anyone wants to ask at this time? Can I just remind members of the Employment Committee that our next committee meeting is due on the 15th of January 2025. And at this point, I'm going to close this meeting to members of the public. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's why I'm just closing this bit of the meeting. Yeah, to the public, is that right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, right. So we'll adjourn the meeting at this point, and then we will be going into a private session. Could I have a proposal for going into a private session for the next piece of our business as the Employment Committee? Thank you, Councillor Knight.